Imagine a leader with world-class wealth, whose enterprise governs the lives of millions across the globe. At the age of 80, instead of overwhelming praise, he faced a yellowed old file. The file recorded his active involvement in an extreme right-wing Nazi organization when he was 17. At that moment, the global spotlight turned piercing. Ingvar Kamprad, the founder of the IKEA myth, was pushed to the judgment seat of humanity. Tonight, let us accompany the gently flickering fireplace and this story that you need not memorize too carefully, and walk into his true life. He used the blue and yellow sign to fill the barren home dreams of post-war Europe. Yet for decades, he tried to repay an invisible debt through an almost self-tormenting life of extreme frugality. Was he a misunderstood frugal genius, or a guilt-ridden recluse who spent his whole life trying to mend the cracks in his soul? The winter of 1994 was bitterly cold in Sweden. A personal letter of apology written by Ingvar Kamprad was sent to all IKEA employees around the world. He wrote in an extremely humble tone, "It was the greatest mistake of my life, and a regret I could never fully escape." It all began when a journalist exposed his deep connections in youth to the pro-Nazi group known as the Swedish Socialist Union. This connection was far more than youthful ignorance. Even after the war, the young Ingvar maintained correspondence with Nazi leader Per Engdahl. For an entrepreneur who advocated creating a better everyday life for most people, this was undoubtedly a fatal paradox. Yet when we look back at his origins, this shadow had long taken root in his veins. His grandparents came from Germany. On Swedish soil, he never truly found a sense of identity. The extreme ambition squeezed out by his surroundings drove him to seek a coordinate that could grant him power, even if it stood in darkness. This inner rift not only shaped his early political leanings but also became his almost morbid driving force in building his business empire in later years. He began to realize that power and money could conquer the world, but only serving the public could redeem himself. Ingvar Kamprad's business talent actually sprouted from his barren and harsh childhood. He grew up on the desolate farm of Elmdrid, a place where only the tough could survive. At the age of 5, he began selling matches to neighbors, not for pocket money, but for the sense of control over the rhythm of survival. Later it was fish, Christmas cards, and seeds. He rode his bicycle through the mist of southern Sweden, calculating the profit of every coin. The name IKEA was formed from the initials of his own name, his family farm, and the nearby village. It was the totem of his entire life. He officially registered the brand at the age of 19. Back then, IKEA sold no furniture, only pens, stockings, and picture frames. To cut costs, he even used milk delivery trucks as logistics channels, hanging parcels on the truck's hooks. This frugality forged on the edge of survival later evolved into IKEA's core competitiveness sweeping the world, extreme affordability. Beneath this, however, lay an almost religious obsession within Ingvar. He could not tolerate any form of waste. To him, wasting was not merely losing money, it was a betrayal of his humble origins and a vanity that filled him with unease. If you have ever walked into an IKEA store and experienced its labyrinthine shopping layout, you have stepped straight into the mind of Ingvar Kamprad. He was a born psychologist. He knew how to turn people's sense of shame over seeking low prices into the pride of self-service. Flat pack design was not only for transportation, it allowed customers to take part in creating their own furniture, forming a simple yet profound emotional bond. Behind these brilliant strategies, however, Ingvar's personal life was incredibly restrained and repressed. He lived in an ordinary house in Lausanne, Switzerland, furnished mostly with cheap items from his own stores, including old sofas he kept for decades. He always flew economy class on business trips and stayed in the cheapest hotels. Even if he drank a bottle of water from the hotel minibar, he would buy one from a supermarket to put it back. On one occasion, he was invited to receive the Swedish Entrepreneur of the Year award, but was stopped by security because he arrived by bus. This frugality served as an example to employees and mere acting to rivals, but in his own heart, it was a shield. He still saw himself as that little boy selling matches in the snow. As long as he never indulged in luxury, the Nazi shadow and his guilt would never completely consume the life he had built. Ingvar Kamprad's entire life was a long battle between escape and control. To ensure IKEA would never fall into the hands of capital markets and politicians, he designed an extremely intricate corporate structure. He placed IKEA's ownership under a non-profit foundation based in the Netherlands. Though he legally gave up ownership of his wealth, he retained eternal control over the brand. It was not only for tax avoidance but also to ensure his massive fortune would forever abide by the creed he had written. He authored the testament of a furniture dealer, requiring every IKEA employee to regard it as a code of conduct. This almost sectarian sense of belonging kept IKEA rooted in the spirit of southern Sweden wherever it expanded across the globe. Yet when his Nazi past was brought back to light in his later years, his obsession with perfect order completely crumbled. He not only apologized in a letter to staff but also met personally with Jewish community leaders, shedding tears during their conversations. In those moments, he was no longer the lofty business icon, just an elderly man haunted by his past, filled with guilt. These vulnerable moments became the most genuine part of his life, transforming him from a cold symbol of miserliness into a flesh-and-blood human being struggling with remorse. In 2018, Ingvar Kamprad passed away peacefully at his hometown in Småland at the age of 91. He left behind a yellow empire spread across the world, along with a personality mystery still debated by later generations. Was he a business genius who succeeded because of his frugality, or a guilt-ridden hermit who lived frugally out of fear? Perhaps the Nazi shadow never truly left him. It turned into the self-discipline behind IKEA's minimalist style, and the plain austerity in his worn sweaters. He spent his whole life working diligently and living humbly, trying to atone for the wrong promise he made in his youth amid the chaos of the times. Tonight's story shows us that even after gaining wealth powerful enough to shake the world, one still pays the highest price for inner peace. The fire in the fireplace has faded, and the night is deep. May you find your own peace amid all life's struggles and regrets. Close your eyes and let the noisy logic of business fade away. May you have a peaceful and fearless dream. Good night.